Welcome to the channel. My name is Alex Hormozi, founder and CEO of Acquisition.com, where we own a number of companies that 120 plus million in the last 4 years. And now we help $3 to $10 million entrepreneurs scale and exit so they only have to get rich once. If you are below $3 million, what we're going to talk about today is one of the components of making your offer more successful so that you get more sales, get more leads, and you get more people to say yes at higher prices. All right, and so one of the components of that, we've already gone over picking the right market, charging what it's worth, the value equation, how to deconstruct and recreate value in the offer with high margin, how to stack bonuses, how to use guarantees in a way that is compelling and unique. And today, it's going to be increasing the scarcity and urgency. All right, so this is how we get people to make faster decisions. This increases our cash conversion cycle. So if we are spending money on advertising, we want to get that money back as fast as possible. So part of that is decreasing the time for people to make decisions, right? And so two components of that are going to be scarcity and urgency, which is a function of units and time. All right, so that's what we're going to go through today. If you like this stuff, you can find out more at acquisition.com. All my stuff is free. And it's because I don't need your money. And I just want everyone to be wealthy. Crazy, I know. Okay, so offer component number 8, scarcity and urgency. So let's rock into it. So you might not be making money because your prospects are not buying fast enough, right? They need to make faster decisions in order for your marketing to be profitable. All right, and so the two components of this are urgency, right? Which is, you have to make a decision by X date or X time. And that's like 5, 3, 2, 1. There's countdown timers. They're telling them there's X date they have to decide by. And the other component of that is scarcity. It's how many spots how many units you have left. All right, so one is a function of how many of a thing there are, units, and the other one is a function of time. All right, and you can use both of them successfully. So let's start with urgency. So there's 4 common reason whys that we've seen work really well, and so they mirror the 4 components of, like, these are what I look at when I'm creating urgency. So you have the group of clients, you have the season that you're in, literally like season of time, like spring, summer, fall. You have your urgency around pricing and bonuses, and then you have urgency around the opportunity. So these are the 4 different ways you can create urgency ethically without, giving up your integrity. All right. So the first is around the group. Okay. So this is where you have rolling cohorts. So you say, hey, our next group starts on Monday, so let's get you in. Right. And so this would be something where, or the next group starts in 2 weeks, whatever it is. Right. And so if you happen to always start, like, most businesses already have these cadences. Right. And so most businesses already have limits around time, and they also almost always have limits around amounts. And let me give you an illustration. If right now you have a business and I said, I will send you 1 million customers, right, for your business, your service business, you probably couldn't handle it. Right. And so then what we would say is, let's define what the actual amount of units you could possibly take is. Let's define that, and now let's tell people that, right? Because you already have a limit naturally in your business, so you might as well market it and use it to create scarcity, right? That's scarcity, which is the next moment. But to the same degree, you probably have a cadence around which you deliver services. You probably do it every week. You have new customers every day, or it might be every month you open a new thing. Or I've got some friends who have big schools, and they do once every 6 months. They do so 2 times a year. They have a new cohort that begins. And so having rolling cohorts allows you to use urgency to get someone started. It's not saying you'll never do it again. It's just saying that this next group starts. And the nice thing that I found in my experience is that when I was selling, brick and mortar, in person, things like that, the fact that I always had another group starting, the next Monday, it didn't matter what day of the week it was. So if it was like Friday, I'd be like, hey, let's get you in because it's starting on Monday. And if someone came on Monday, I'd be like, perfect. All right. So you have 7 days to enjoy yourself, relax, and get ready to rock and roll because Monday we go live. Right. And so by doing that, I always had a nice reason why to get them to make a decision today and not have to think about it. All right. The next is rolling seasonal urgency. All right. This is where you're saying, this promotion is over. This season, this promotion could be our Valentine's special. It could be our New Year's special. It could be our spring forward in March special. It could be our April shower special. It could be our get ready for summer special. It could be like all of those are seasonal urgency that we can say. It's similar to this, except it just has a different flavor. And that's kind of the idea here is if we can change the way the urgency feels, it'll always seem authentic. But notice we're not doing anything unethical that's not in integrity. We're just simply saying, hey, we have our Valentine's Day special that's starting next month, or the Valentine's Day special is ending in 3 days. Let's get you in. Now, that being said, we might have a very, very similar offer that starts next month, but it's going to be under a different name. And so as a result, this promotion will end, the next promotion will begin. And so that gives us urgency around that. All right. Which leads naturally to the next one, which is this is around the unit of time, and around the promotion itself, the pricing and the bonuses that are associated with it. So we might have bonuses that we swap out. So let's say I have 10 bonuses that I give people, and I give 5 bonuses for month A, and different 5 for month B, and then and month C, I go back to the first 5 again. So I might have these bonuses that they're no longer going to have access to, if they don't make a decision. And so they probably want those bonuses. And so it's like, hey, we'll make a decision because this promotion comes with these things, which will be gone at the end of the month. So you should get in on that. Right. And so that also functions the same way with pricing. So if you have a specific discount or a specific starting price, then you can utilize that. So a fun, easy example for this is like how you can variate this stuff. This is especially important in local markets because you have such a limited audience that you have to cycle through promotions quickly. So you want to change the flavor of it based on the month. You can also change the flavor based on the name. You can change the flavor based on the pricing. So if I had a $19 new client special versus a $29 new client special versus a $1 new client special versus a free start or free first session, all of those are different variations, but they're going to feed into the same business model. And more, they don't really make any difference to us, but it looks different to the prospect. And so it actually allows us to get people to take action faster. All right. And then finally, you have an exploding opportunity. All right. And this is, if you can get this one, this is the most powerful of all of them, which is that you have a real reason why this opportunity that you're selling them on is going to disappear. Right. So an example of that would be, let's say eBay and Amazon, there's a price discrepancy. So that means that if on eBay, I can or Craigslist and Amazon, whatever, I can buy things at one price and I can sell them at another price, and there's a huge discrepancy between those prices. That is arbitrage, right? So I don't really have to do a lot of work. I just take from one place and sell to another place. And I might be selling an opportunity around this and say, listen, guys, like you can buy this today, you can buy this tomorrow, you can buy this next month. But the thing is the opportunity might not be here. It's going to consistently shrink over time. And so the sooner you get in, the more of this wave you're going to be able to ride before it crashes, because eventually the opportunity is going to disappear, as all great opportunities do, right? And so this is an exploding opportunity, which implies urgency was why they should act today, right? And so if you have a unique way of marketing, you have unique markets, for example, that you are exploiting, the buying and selling between two different price points, those are the ways that you can create an exploding opportunity. And that is how you can build urgency, those 4 ways, into your offering. All right. The next piece of this is scarcity. Now, you can do both of these. Obviously, you can just do scarcity, you can just do urgency. But scarcity comes down to a limited number of supply of seats or units. All right. So that's of places that you have the ability to service. This is why this is so important, is to define what your current limited capacities are. So define your limits, define the constraints, and then market those constraints so that you can tell people. Like, for example, you might find out that if this is especially true if you have brick and mortar, but really any service business, you only have a certain amount of capacity. Like, let's say you only have one more rep who's a media buyer, right? And that person's already 3/4 taken up, right? Well, you could say, I only have 25% capacity left on one guy before I have to hire someone else. So like, this is pretty much like, if you want to get one of the last spots, you should just get in today so you don't have to delay, and we can just get you going, right? It also shows that other people have already made the decision, so it gives social proof. And so you're stacking these resources you already have. This is the sawdust of your business. This is the excess capacity that you're not communicating to increase the scarcity so that it speeds up people's decision-making process, because they're like, oh, darn, well, I really want to make this decision faster because there's only a limited amount of seats left. All right. Another thing that you can limit, right, is going to be the supply of bonuses. So this is just like the urgency bonuses before, but this is just applied with scarcity. So it's like, I may have a limited amount of these things, or I could choose to limit them. My opinion is it's better to have a limited amount. This works especially well with physical product premiums. And what I mean by that is, if you're a brick and mortar business, you could have t-shirts, you could have, that's a very simple example. You could do obviously other stuff. You could have bands, you could have orthotics, you could have anything that would naturally go with the purchase. You say, this is a bonus if you buy today, right? But we only have X amount of them, right? And people can understand physical limits of unit constraints because that makes sense from a scarcity. Otherwise, we got to wait another month before we get another offer in, and I don't know if we're going to be able to have them, blah, blah, blah. And so people say, well, I was going to think about it, but if I can get this thing today, then I'll go forward with it, right? And then the final way of having scarcity is just never available again, or one of a kind, all right? So this is really interesting because of the NFT world that exists with non-fungible tokens, which is going to be huge in the future, but it's going to be massive. But anyways, those create one of a kind products, right? That's why art is so, it can go to egregious prices because there's only one, right? They're limited edition. That's why when you're doing, if you have a physical products business, you do flavor drops, and you do only one time only, and it's limited supply. And then once it's gone, it's gone. If you were in the apparel business, you could do a single unique design on a t-shirt, drop it, only have 100, and sell out. And you'd literally sell more of those things than if you had every single t-shirt that you'd ever made posted on a site, because scarcity drives purchasing decisions. So another example of this, I'm going to keep driving this home because it's important. And scarcity comes down to supply and demand, which is one of the most powerful forces in all of buying, right? Is supply and demand, if not the most powerful, right? And so what we're doing is we're leveraging supply and demand to our favor. We're purposely limiting supply to increase that ratio in our favor. So I'll tell you one story. When I was at Arnold Schwarzenegger's house, we were doing this charity event. It was $25,000 a ticket. I was talking to one of his biggest donor at the event besides me, and this guy came up to me, super weathered business guy, really cool, owned an exotic watch business. And the CEO of the charity came up to me and said, "Hey, this is so and so. You should meet him." He was the one who gave me the advice of raising the ticket prices, right? And it was because the last year it had sold out. And so what they did was they cut the tickets, the amount of tickets that they sold, I think in half, and they more than doubled the price. So they went from I think $10,000 to $25,000, and they cut the number of tickets by, it might have been less than 50%, but they cut the number of tickets. And so the guy smiled. This amazing. It was just like this. He was very proud of himself and of the owner. And he said, yeah, whenever demand increases, cut supply. So think about that. Whenever demand increases, cut supply. And I always thought about that. And this guy had a bazillion-dollar fine jewelry business. And so it was all in selling unique and rare pieces. And so he understood supply and demand better than just about anyone. And this is especially true in the high-end space, which is what most people who are watching this would like to get into, like to charge more for your products and services. And so one of the things to look at is look at Louis Vuitton, look at Chanel, look at some of these brands that have been around forever and see how they create this. So if you go to a Chanel store, for example, which is wildly overpriced, but if you go to a Chanel store, they only have 1 to 2 of every item in the store. And they don't even tell their stores what they're going to send them. And so what they do is they create genuine scarcity around every product they have. And so if you walk in the store and you really like a purse, it might not be there tomorrow because it's the only one. And so they don't actually only create one of these purses, but they don't sell online. They only sell through their distribution outlets. And if you walk in there, every store is different because they all get different pieces. And whatever they get could be gone after that day, right? And so they engineer scarcity, right? De Beers, the biggest diamond importer there, 75% of the world's diamond supply comes through De Beers mines. They purposely limit the supply of diamonds that go in the marketplace so that they can maintain higher margins on those stones, because it turns out the diamonds are actually far less rare than rubies and sapphires and other gemstones, but they literally have artificially created the scarcity. So huge businesses have been doing this for centuries, and it's worth studying because if you can control the supply to demand curve, you can charge whatever you want, right? If there's only one of you and there's an unlimited supply or demand for your time, then you can benefit from that and ultimately get people to make decisions faster. All right. So limited supply of seats or units, limited supply of bonuses, and then never available again or one of a kind are the ways that you can add scarcity into your service, right? And so this is where product drops or NFTs and things like that in the future will become really, really killer. Okay. I think I talked about physical products versus services. Physical products is everything I just explained with Chanel and all that stuff. But if you that's why Amazon says how many are left, right? They put scarcity on the page so you know. And then with X spots left, you have to just say how much you could possibly take. So if you have an agency, for example, then you'd say like, well, I can only handle 10 clients a month. So if you already have 8 clients that have been sold, then just tell them that you only have 2 spots that you can possibly handle this month left before you have to hire someone else, which means you're going to pause. You might as well get in now, right? And so this gives, and it's like, in that point, this guy's awesome, and that's why he's almost booked out, right? So social proof, it shows expertise, and it shows demand. All of those things lean and tip the scale in your favor to get someone to make a faster decision with you today. All right. So with services, I like to do only, if you can only take 100 clients, then say that you can only take 100 clients. This is a beautiful thing that if you have like a higher end program or whatever, and you want to keep it to an exclusive amount, name the group by the amount and just say, I'm only doing that. And it creates scarcity, and people also don't want to leave you, especially with recurring. You can create scarcity around retention to keep people longer by saying you're limiting it to X amount. All right. Another version of this is just X clients per week. We only can handle 10 clients a week. And then after that, we got to put you to next week. So you just reverse engineer this number, but you can still be honest and genuine about it. All right. Another one would be only Y clients per cohort, right? That start whenever the defined period. So I said per week versus per cohort, just to simply show that you could have this level of scarcity per group that starts in 2 months or starts every 6 months, right? And so these are just nuances of how you can use this in services. You can have a total cap, you can have a cap on the limits per time, or you can have a cap on the actual total number of people. So those are the different ways that you can slice and dice the scarcity in a service business ethically without lying to prospects, which you do not want to do. Okay, so urgency is scarcity. That is how you can increase the likelihood that someone's going to buy faster, increase your cash conversion cycles, and get people to ultimately buy from you. All right, so we got both of those covered. You can find more of these trainings at acquisition.com. They're absolutely free. I just want you to make money. If you're a $3 to $10 million business and you're trying to scale and exit in 3 to 5 years, we'd love to help you out. That is what we do. We have 5 8-figure businesses now, and so I just want to help you win. And maybe by the time you're listening to this, we might have more. So who knows? That being said, we've already covered all these things for how to create offers so that you can get higher conversions, higher sales at higher prices. And the last component of this is going to be the magic gaming formula, all right, which is going to be in the next video. I'll see you there.